Ladies and gentlemen, it is the moment you've all been waiting for, and I am super ecstatic to tell you all about my game of the year. But first of all, if you guys are new around here, my name is Ramakrishnan. Welcome to the channel. I hope that you guys are ready to hear me rant on about the game that truly stuck with me the most in 2018. But there is a precursor to this. There's a whole series of videos, so you're definitely going to want to go in my description below and check out the link to the playlist, because I decided to take the inevitable top 10 list of my favorite games of 2018 and actually break them down into 10 separate videos. Now hear me out, if you haven't seen them yet. What I did was I avoided the inevitable 1-hour video, but I also simultaneously avoided not giving enough respect to the developers who made these amazing experiences. I think that they deserve all the respect that they've gotten and that I'm giving them. So watch number 10 through number 2 and hear about the games that I love the most in 2018, and then return, because it is time for my personal game of the year for 2018.
All right, and the game award for game of the year goes to God of War.
God of War was always going to be Game of the Year, right from the get-go in April, as I slashed away at menacing Norse beasts, paused the game every second to take gorgeous screenshots, and laughed and cried at the heavily emotional and genuine narrative of father and son. God of War is not just my game of the year, but it is my game of the generation. While I have more than loved many titles across all platforms over the last few years, particularly that of the PlayStation 4, none have ever come close to the sheer heights of spectacle that Sony Santa Monica's newest iteration to the action series accomplished this year. God of War is so much more than a great game, but an absolute masterclass in storytelling, writing, voice acting, combat, world design, sound design, and so much more. No game can be perfect, though it is in the eye of the beholder, but I believe 2018 came very close to showing otherwise. God of War is hands down my game of the year.
You're next! I'll rip your head off!
There are consequences to killing a god!
Why? How do you know? How do you know?
Cory Barlog's personal fatherhood helped him direct a story about just that in an amazing way. I found God of War's story to be engaging right from the beginning. It opens with a low-energy scene of Kratos and his son Atreus preparing to deliver his wife's ashes to the location that she desired. And at first I was interested in Kratos being a father for sure, though I didn't have any instant reason to believe that he was going to be likable, nor did I have any reason to not fear the escort mission style of many games of the past finding its way over here. Ultimately, Atreus himself proves to be one of the best characters in all of gaming. I love the character for a multitude of reasons, as I did everybody else in the small but glorious cast.
On the day you were born, I made 2 knives, mixing metals from my home and from this land. One for myself, and when you were ready, one for you.
Atreus was thrown into the world, not knowing of the world that Kratos lived in before him. The past life of godhood and violence alike that his father had went through is not even stories to Atreus, and that is why the relationship that they will build is just so interesting. Atreus slowly discovers what Kratos went through and who he actually is. Atreus is everything from amazed to frightened. He experiences a relationship with his father in the most unconventional and undesirable way. Yet by the end, the dynamic interactions of the narrative between the two prove to be super compelling and come with great results and payoffs alike. Kratos' son, more than anything, wants to get along with him, and Atreus equally wants to understand Kratos. Throughout all of this, though, he is innocent, young, and naive. He tackled problems bigger than both of them head on, much like his father, all in lieu of what ramifications may come with it. And Atreus ultimately proves to be anything but afraid by the end. I think his curiosity and young nature make him so pure and equal parts interesting. Easily the best kid in any game that I've ever played.
You will listen to me and not speak a word. I am your father, and you, boy, are not yourself. You are too quick to temper. You are rash, insubordinate, and out of control. This will not stand. You will honor your mother and abandon this path you have chosen.
Atreus' interactions with Kratos are amazing, but there are other ways that he interacts with the world around him, proving to be equally compelling. Atreus' fascination with his father as a god of the Greek world complements the knowledge that he has over Kratos of the Norse world that they are in. He teaches Kratos things, and this results in some super delightful conversations, where we see the child actually one-up the father. Atreus seems to be so compelled by the world around him, and once he feels for Freya like she could be his own mother figure, thinks it even better.
I know you're a god. Not of this realm, but there's no mistaking it. He doesn't know, does he? About your true nature? Or his own?
Freya is a wonderfully acted and written character, as the main protagonists in Kratos and Atreus are. She's super interesting for both her dynamic guidance to them and for her own backstory, which hits her hard when Kratos' presence in the new world strikes her. Without going into some spoilers, Freya's motherhood is of course tested, and it is almost as amazing in execution as that of Kratos and the fatherhood that he goes through. This great complement between the two narratives within the game help make God of War all the more deep. It is such an impeccably well written game. I've played many great titles with narratives and characters that are almost up to par with books or films. However, none could ever have come close to the quality of God of War. Sony Santa Monica seems to have put the most into this, making a story that has so many interesting and emotional payoffs and character moments alike. They even turned Kratos, who was once a burly and violent, emotionless man, into someone who is incredibly dynamic and compelling, whose personal journey, even without those around him, is nothing short of really amazing.
My son, we do not fight because the world makes us fight. We fight for a greater purpose.
With Kratos' past behind him, he wants to forget about the terrible actions that he was responsible for, but it all seems to come back and bite him. He is constantly haunted by that, and the fact that he cannot keep the history and facts from his son, but the desire to do so, make him very three-dimensional and deep, a character whose actions and feelings players can probably get behind. Kratos is, however, still essentially a god, and the way the game allows you to play that out is done in the familiarly brutal and epic manners, yet also approached in a really intriguing way, making the gameplay complement the world and story of God of War.
Dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
Who you were before doesn't matter. This boy is not your past, he is your son.
I love the God of War titles of the past mainly for the over-the-top action sequences, boss fights, and just general brutality. And fortunately, with the power of the PlayStation 4, this year's God of War allows me to do all of that again, but in some new and engaging ways, all with stunning visuals to boot. God of War did what many games do these days in becoming more of an RPG, and with that, I was scared of too much depth for my personal liking and taste. Pleasantly surprised I was though. God of War left me with systems that made sense, ones that were deep and rewarding and fun to mess around with, never going overboard though. I found the evolution in gameplay to be welcoming and overall super well done. God of War obviously grew with its storytelling approach and character development of Kratos, but the way that the RPG mechanics work here make it grow in terms of gameplay just as well.
The road ahead is long and unforgiving. No place for a boy. You must be a warrior.
God of War allows you to use different sets of gear and armor, though not as abundant as say Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Diablo 3, probably for the better. The game let me choose types of special attacks to add on to me for regular combat, abilities that I would be able to use while fighting so long as I watch my meters. It gave me the chance to try out new pieces of armor, customizing my stats to how I wanted my Kratos to be right on the battlefield to my liking. These role-playing systems integrated work quite well. They're accessible, but deep enough to make your decisions feel effective. And of course, they enhance what is easily my favorite combat of 2018.
Atreus! I can hold on!
With the web swinging and fluidity of Marvel's Spider-Man, it was hard to say a game had better feeling gameplay. But in the end, God of War is brutal, intense, and incredibly rewarding in how it plays, and it all feels really dynamic and exciting every step of the way, easily resulting in what is my favorite combat system that I've played in many games in recent years. Kratos may be god material, but he is unfamiliar with the Norse threats that he is faced with, so he must adapt. I think it made for some really interesting encounters and ways of going about success, using Atreus to great effect of course, but also seeing that Kratos is not so invincible after all. He could be vulnerable as well. But Atreus' bow shooting and summons were some of the most awesome abilities, seamless and smoothly integrated into the melee combat, making my son much more of a bonus than a step back that I thought Atreus could have been. And Kratos is just as violent and powerful as always. I love hack and slash and third-person action games with a melee focus, and the way that this year's God of War title plays out satisfies my taste for that combat in every single way. God of War provided me with the most epic weapon in recent games in the form of the Leviathan. The way that this axe came back to me instantly and did its own menacing tricks in the air was so awesome, and it all felt great in swinging away at my foes. I dodged attacks, countered my enemies, and chained violent finishers and combos together in ways that the older God of War games could never accomplish. It is absolutely exhilarating to play, and easily the best action and combat of any game that I played across the year, thanks to the great impact of every weapon and hit alike, every unique ability and every personalized moveset, with super violent and ever so satisfying payoffs. Ultimately, God of War is nothing short of a spectacle, a masterful work in every department that makes great games what they are. The title dynamically and impressively implements a combination of compelling characters, emotional storytelling, action-packed combat, interesting world building, and gorgeous design through and through. God of War blew me away in every aspect, whether it was the depth of Kratos as a character, or the amazingly acted and written sidecast, or the exploration of the deeply engaging and uniquely designed Norse world. The game is incredibly special. No matter how amazing everything else I played and adored across 2018 was, no game could ever possibly sneak its way up to #1 like God of War. It is, in my mind, a true masterpiece.
So I'm a man now. Like you?
No. We are not men. We are more than that.
I really loved writing and editing these videos and giving them to you and structuring it into 10 different videos across a playlist. I thought that it was pretty fun, and I had a good time with challenging myself in a debate in my mind of which games deserve which placement on the list. It was not easy, like I said. It was definitely a challenge because there were so many great games, but in the end, there's a reason why my #1 was my #1, and I hope that you guys can understand that if your game of the year is not mine, or if your game of the year didn't even make my list. It's totally possible, and I'm looking forward to having a lot of discussion in the comments below. Let me know if you've enjoyed the way this series was structured, if you like me giving you it in 10 different videos where I give a lot of attention to each game individually rather than going on for a long time or just not giving a lot of attention to each game. That is how I felt like doing it, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video and this series as a whole. So be sure to let me know all your thoughts on my game of the year list, my structuring of this list into 10 videos, your game of the year, and so forth in the comments below. I look forward to talking to you all very soon. And once more, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you guys all very soon as we bring in the new year and a lot of awesome content coming your way. Once more, thank you guys. I'll see you next time.